I'm gonna get nauseous thinking about this again. Hola, I'm so sorry. This is supposed to be a collab with Kai, aka CoffeeCat, and oh, I messed up. I thought this was supposed to go up on Sunday, not Thursday, and I mixed it up and I wasn't prepared, so I'm sorry. This should be going up on Friday. But go check out her short-term video. The link will be in the description, and go subscribe to her because she's awesome. And I suck at collabs. Ask Mr. Saberine. I suck at collabs. And I'm so sorry, Kai, and I'm sorry to anybody else that I've been trying to do a collab with, and I keep messing everything up. I'm so sorry. I am just such a frazzle brain, but I hope you guys enjoy this video. Well, look guys, it's Kat. Pretty positive I didn't say this story. However, I do think I might have mentioned it in a past live stream or something like that. I feel like I've talked about it before with you guys, but when I looked through my story times, I didn't see it. So I'm not entirely sure what to call this story time. I'm pretty positive I was starting to be possessed. This happened 2013. A senior in high school, and I had a long distance boyfriend, and every night we would Skype. One night I was talking with him. I was in the middle of saying something, and he interrupts me and he goes, "Oh, okay, good night." What? I was talking, like I was just kind of like, what the heck? I tried to speak and I couldn't. I realized I wasn't able to move. I'm laying on my stomach looking at my iPad, kind of jerking around like this, like trying to move, and I really could not move. I could feel a pressure coming down on my back. It felt like someone was starting to slowly lay on top of me. I remember kind of going like that and trying to push it off. And somehow, I was able to get myself on my side and to sit up. I was fighting. I was like pushing and fighting, and like I was just like, this pressure was on me and I couldn't move. I stood up. I could feel myself levitating. Not very high, so much off the ground. I remember just standing up and like my body just being stuck like this, knowing I wasn't touching the ground. And I remember just fighting and fighting and fighting to try and turn facing towards my door, because at the time my bed was, instead of right here, it was against that wall. So I would have been standing over here facing my door right here, which I know you guys can't really see. There was nothing in the room with me. I remember looking around and I could just feel this pressure and this presence, and I was floating in the air and I'm freaking out, and I'm just trying to fight my way through it. Myself to move forward, just inching slowly forward, and suddenly I got flung back and I was up against the wall. I could feel myself getting sunk into the wall and reaching up like this. I started freaking out, and as that happened, my door opened and my mom peeks her head in and she's looking down at the bed. I start freaking out and I try to start screaming and I couldn't scream. I was fighting it so much, like I was so scared. I could move my feet a little bit and I start kicking it like this, kicking it against the wall, and I start trying to scream, but it's only coming out like, like I just was trying so hard and I couldn't. My mouth was like sealed shut. The door closes and I just start banging my feet against the wall as hard as I could and trying to scream as loud as I could, and I could feel myself getting sunk into the wall further. And then all of a sudden I was laying in the bed on my stomach like I was before, and I gasped for air. I hear my boyfriend at the time screaming, "Leave her alone! Leave her alone! Cat, what's happening? What's happening?" And I just start crying, and I pulled the sheet over my head and I'm crying my eyes out, and the presence, the pressure, everything was gone, and I'm just crying. I told him what happened. I get goosebumps at this part because he tells me what had happened on his end. So while this was happening to me, this is what happened on his end of the phone call. I had said to him,
"I'm tired. I'm going to bed now."
And I said it with an attitude like that. And he was just like, oh, okay. He had heard silence when I was talking and then heard me go, "I'm tired, I'm going to bed." It was not me. I was wondering why he interrupted me. I was like, what the hell? Why are you, what? I was in the middle of saying something. And then he heard silence for a little bit. And he always waited for me to fall asleep. And then he would hang up. He's sitting in his room downstairs all by himself. There's no one there. And he's like watching TV. And after however much time passed by, he was gonna hang up. And as he went to do so, he heard a man's voice say,
"Don't hang up."
And he stopped and he looked around. So he thought maybe it was the TV. And again, he went to hang up. And again, he heard,
"Don't hang up."
He heard this, and he kind of like got startled and was looking around and was like, okay, I did hear that. And all of a sudden, he hears choking and starts freaking out. He thought that there was a man in my room and he was attacking me. That's when he started screaming, and then I was released out of it. As we were talking about it, as he's telling me what happened, he goes, "Oh my God." And I said, "What?" He goes, "There was just a man here." He described him, and the man he described was my father. And at this point in time, he had seen like one photo maybe of my father, and that was at the beginning of the relationship. I don't remember how far in we were at this point. We put it together and we realized the voice was my father telling him not to hang up because my dad knew what was happening to me. Oh, you're probably wondering like how this is a possession, or whatever entity is trying to possess you or person, whatever. They're not actually like usually doing physical stuff to them. They're making them see things. They're getting in their mind. And that's usually how a possession starts. So like when people describe like crazy shit, it's not necessarily physically happening because they would have to be a very, very powerful entity to be able to do things that people have described. Whereas invading your mind is a little bit easier. My theory has been I was starting to be possessed by the dark entity that I've told you guys is in my home, and actually that's the thing that has been following me. So I believe that I was starting to be possessed, but my father protected me. That's why it suddenly just stopped. I was fighting and fighting, and I think my dad helped release me. And he made sure that my boyfriend at the time stayed there because he knew that I was going to need someone afterwards. This is the thing that's kind of trippy, by the way. I asked my mother if she had looked into my room, and she said no. But she goes, "I did hear you making a lot of noise." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I was downstairs and I heard thumping." I was like, "Thumping? Like really fast?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was slow at first, but it got really fast. It only happened briefly, but I did hear it." That's very weird. That is something that I will never forget. I am still friends with that guy. Anyways, so that was how I was starting to be possessed. One of the scariest, it's definitely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. I've had 2 seriously scary things happen, and the first one was my encounter with a demon, which, by the way, this is all the same entity. This is all the same dark thing. I will link below that story time if you don't know what I'm talking about. Let me know your paranormal stories, your scary stuff that's happened to you in the comment section below, and also let me know what you guys would like to see in the future. Bye, my little rainbows. Mwah. And she's looking down at the bed.
And she's looking down at the bed. And she's looking down at the bed.
And there was something